Hey guys, thanks for checking out another cooking recipe with BoneHead Waterfowl. I'm excited for today's. We are doing a goose chili. So here in Omaha, it's a perfect day for it. It's snowing like crazy outside. We're supposed to pick up like 6 to 8 inches. So what better recipe to make when you're stuck inside and it's into December, it's cold outside, it's snowing, than chili. So we're gonna put our own little BoneHead variant on that, and we're gonna make it with goose today. I'm using some pieces of my normal chili recipe on this, and I'm also going to improvise a little bit. So I've put a little thought into it. In my mind, it's going to taste delicious. So only one way to find out. My goal for this episode not only is to end up with a good tasting chili at the end, but less talking and more cooking. So let's go. All right, we're using 2 goose breasts. So all you need is 1 goose for this recipe. I'm using 2 goose breasts. They look a little funky right now. They're still pretty hard. They're partially frozen, and the reason I want them that way is they're going to go through the meat grinder a lot better, a lot easier that way. So this is an attachment for my KitchenAid. It's like a $15-$20 attachment. I'll try to find it on Amazon, put the link on the video. Clicks right in. It's good for doing small batches like this. I'm going to go ahead and get this goose ran through the meat grinder. Just like that, 2 goose breasts, diced, and ready for the grinder. That's the last of it. 2 goose breasts. Look at that. All ground up. All right, guys, next step, take half to a full package of bacon, depending on what you want, and go ahead and cut this up. You want to dice this bacon up. All right, we got all that bacon diced up. Set that aside and go ahead and chop up your veggies. We're going to do 1 bell pepper. We're going to do half of a Serrano pepper, a whole onion, and that's what we're going to start with. All right, guys, we got our veggies all chopped up, mixed together. We've got a cast iron pot here on the stove. We're going to run, while we're cooking this, we're going to run it at medium heat. So on my stovetop here, I've got it running at a 5. As that heats up, it's going to start cooking our bacon. So go ahead, the bacon's the first ingredient that goes in here. As this starts to cook, just keep stirring it up, break these pieces up. There's some bigger pieces, but as they start to cook, you'll be able to break them up. So we're gonna cook this bacon until it starts to crisp up. All right, guys, this bacon's looking good. As you can see, look at all the grease that has come out of this, and that's starting to crisp up. So if you have some of those bigger chunks in there that maybe you didn't get cut up all the way, you can break those up. Now, the next step that we're gonna do is we've got all that bacon grease in there, so we wanna absorb that into as much flavor as possible. So we're going to go to our veggies. Again, we've got 2 types of peppers in here as well as an onion. Go ahead and dump this in your pot and just stir that up with that bacon. Those vegetables are going to start to absorb some of that bacon grease. It's going to taste really good. So go ahead, give this a stir for about a minute or 2, and then we're going to start dumping our seasoning in. Now, since I've never done this before, I'm just going to kind of wing it. I'm not going to give exact measurements as we go. I'll kind of tweak the recipe a little bit, and then I'll put it at the end of the video for you. But basically, I'm going to be using, I've got chili powder, some paprika, oregano, salt and pepper. That's really what I'm going to start with, those 5. So I'm going to do the first round of seasoning right now on these veggies. I want to get those veggies just soaked in bacon grease as well as cooked in those seasonings. I'm going to let those go about 4 or 5 minutes till they start to get tender. And then we're going to come in with the meat, and that meat's going to cook in that leftover bacon grease. It's going to absorb a lot of those flavors, kind of mix in. We'll top off with a little bit of seasoning. Then we're going to add the rest of our ingredients as we cook, and we'll come back at the end, give it a taste, and we'll kind of add any flavors that we think we need to or tweak any of the seasoning. So let's go. All right, so our first round of seasoning is in there. We're just letting that cook with those vegetables till they start to become nice and tender. You can really start to smell everything. Man, this smells good. So we're going to let this go a few more minutes, and we're going to add our ground up goose. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead, take off that ground goose, just 2 breasts. We're going to dump that in there now. No one's ever accused me of making a chili that's light on meat, and I can see that's going to be pretty much the same with this one, because half this pot already is bacon and goose meat, but it's all right. Go ahead and mix this up now. Mix it with all those vegetables, and then we're going to hit it with another round of seasoning and just keep letting this cook, and we're going to brown this until all of this meat is cooked through. All right, guys, so this goose meat, this is completely mixed and cooked. I did add another bell pepper. It just didn't have enough vegetables in it for me, so Again, we're going to tweak the recipe at the end. We'll get everything out there. So now we're going to go ahead and start adding our tomatoes. I've got a can here of crushed tomatoes. I'm going to start with about, I was going to say half, but there just went 3/4 of it. So I'm going to start with 3/4 of a can there of crushed tomatoes. Executive decision, we're using the whole jar. Okay. Got that in there. Next, we're going tomato paste. So take about half of this. If we need to thicken her up or feel like we need a little more of that, we can always add it. And then here's something a little different. I've done this in the past, but I'm gonna do a little combination. Everybody loves barbecue sauce. Let's try some barbecue sauce and some chili. So I'm gonna go with just kind of a normal traditional barbecue sauce. This is Killer Hogs. And I'm gonna do about 3/4 of a cup to a cup with that. And then because chili needs a good little kick, I'm gonna use some spicy sauce. The only spicy sauce I had, I got this as a gift. This Famous Dave's Texas Pit. She's got a nice little kick to her. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix that in there as well. All right, so again, with all this, let it start to simmer, kind of cook and mix up. Then we'll come back, go to our next step, and add some more of this. Stay tuned. Looking good. Let's go to our next step. All right, boneheads, it smells amazing in here. So we are kind of at our last, second to last step, I'm gonna say. I'm just kind of winging it here. We're gonna go ahead and add a few things. If you're thinking, man, it can't be a chili without beans, well, you're gonna like this step. We're gonna go ahead and drop some beans in here. I kind of have a love-hate relationship. I think you need some beans in a chili. I don't think you need a lot. Technically, I would usually put at least 2 cans in, but for this recipe, I'm just gonna go 1 can here of chili beans. I've got that in there. Next, this is a little bit of a tip for my more traditional chili recipe, and that's beer. I'm gonna put about half a beer in here. Yeah, test it first, make sure it tastes good. So about half a beer is gonna go in there. This is a new one. This is a tip I got from someone talking about chili, a little beef broth. So I'm putting about a cup of beef broth in here, and all these ingredients, I said second to last step because the last step is doing those final tweaks. I'm setting all these extra ingredients here in the back of the stove, so as I taste this here in about an hour, I can kind of add whatever I might need to it. So I've got beer, I've got my beef broth or my cook stock, my beef cooking stock, garlic. We need garlic. Get yourself a garlic press. This thing's awesome. Go ahead and take this. You don't even have to get the skin off of it or anything. Just load her up in there, and it's gonna press everything right through. So I'm doing about 3 cloves of garlic in here. Do a couple presses of this real fast. All right, so we got our garlic in there, and then last thing, Worcestershire sauce. You gotta have a little bit of that in there. So I'm just gonna do that amount. I don't know, see how that turns out. So, tell you what, it looks good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and let this cook here. I'm gonna say a half hour. Everybody knows chili, the longer you let it sit, sometimes it's better the next day. The longer you let it sit and those flavors absorb, the better it gets. So I'm gonna let this go here for about 30 minutes. Then we're gonna come back, we're gonna do that last step where we're tasting it, making our final tweaks, adding whatever we need, and then we'll let it simmer a little bit more so whatever we put in there has a chance to soak in. Then we're gonna try this. Goose chili, we're getting there. All right, boneheads, for the sake of time, I just went ahead and made a few tweaks with the camera off. And this is what it looks like. This has been simmering now for a couple hours. And I'm telling you, it smells good, it looks good. The last sample I had, it tastes good. So our goose chili is looking absolutely money. I'm gonna let this simmer about another half hour, and then we're gonna go ahead and do our taste test. All right, boneheads, there you have it, our goose chili. Like I said, it's been snowing outside, it's cold. Nothing hits the spot like chili, right? So let's give this thing a taste test. Wow. That's me patting my back. Telling you guys, That's awesome. It's perfect. It's meaty. It's got that good chili flavor, and then a little bit of that heat slides in on the back. Wow, like I'm still getting a little bit of it. You could kick up the heat a little bit. You could add some cumin or a little bit more of that spicy barbecue sauce. But the more I talk, the more I'm feeling that heat. This is dialed in. This should be a staple in your cookbook for wild game, goose breast, chili, middle of winter. This stuff's awesome. Thanks for checking out another episode of Bonehead Waterfowl. Hope to see you guys again soon.